Welcome back to the status quo, everybody. We once again live in a world where Brock Lesnar is the main champion in WWE. Nothing ever really changes. But it's very unfortunate that such a sour ending came on a overall really good show. And I guess we might as well talk about that really good show. So, what's going on, everybody? This is Derek J407 here to give you my thoughts on WWE Extreme Rules 2019 live from the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a WWE show in Philly. So, there's at least a chance it'll be really good. And I thought, top to bottom, this was a really good show. A lot of really good matches, a lot of fun ones. Although I do have to take them to task in that they call this show Extreme Rules, yet out of the 12 or so matches on the entire card, only 3 matches actually had a stipulation to them. And of those 3 matches, 2 of them were basically the exact same stipulation. So, a little weak in that regard, but as a pay-per-view, ignoring that, I thought it was pretty good. So, we'll go ahead and start from the beginning. Start off with the kickoff show. It was a last-minute addition to the kickoff show, that being an Intercontinental Championship match between Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura. These two men had a match on SmackDown the previous week that saw Nakamura get the clean win over Finn Balor, which put him in line for a championship match. And it seemed like, with it being a couple of days before the pay-per-view, it would probably be best to save it for SummerSlam. Not to say we won't get a rematch at SummerSlam, but it was pretty much thought that the official championship match would happen at SummerSlam, but instead happened on the kickoff show here. And it was a pretty good match. I remember the match that they had in NXT a couple of years ago that was really hyped up, being a lot better than this one, but it was fine for what it was. Balor went for the coup de grace and missed. Nakamura moved out of the way, and he got back up, got a knee to the back of his head, and then hit him with a Kinshasa proper and got the win. So Nakamura becomes the new Intercontinental Champion. They were really hyping up the fact that he went back to old form and this is a reinvigorated Nakamura and all that kind of stuff. We haven't seen him in a long time, and he came back, set his sights on Balor, got a big win to earn a championship match, and in his first chance, he won the title. So, by all appearances, it looks like they're going to do something with him. So, we'll see if that holds true. Like I said, I expect there to be a rematch probably at SummerSlam. If not, maybe on SmackDown this week. But, we'll see what they do with Nakamura as the Intercontinental Champion. And then the second match on the pre-show was for the Cruiserweight Championship. Drew Gulak, the hometown boy in Philly, defending against Tony Nese. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see this match. I saw the Nakamura-Balor match, but I had to step out for a quick second. Unfortunately, that quick second turned out to be much longer than I expected it to be, so I did not get to see this entire match. But from what I understand, it was pretty good. But Gulak got the win, which is rare, seeing as how it's his hometown. And rarely do we see guys win in their hometown. But Gulak is still the Cruiserweight Champion. So on to the main show. We kick things off with the no-holds-barred tag team match. The team of Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre taking on Roman Reigns and The Undertaker. And of course, this match was designed to make us forget that debacle of a match that The Undertaker had with Goldberg at the Saudi Super Showdown show last month. So, I guess the idea was to come out here and just wipe the slate clean, give us a reinvigorated Undertaker, give us a fresh Undertaker who looked motivated and looked like a badass. Something he didn't really look like in that match, and we pretty much got that here. He and Roman looked good together, and Undertaker was definitely the highlight of the match because he looked great in the match. Then again, he wasn't in majority of it, but he took a lot more bumps than I thought he would, particularly some big ones. he and Shane were on the outside. He cleared off the announce table, Undertaker that is. He was setting up Shane for a last ride through the table, when out of nowhere, from behind, comes Elias with a guitar shot to the back of the Undertaker. Roman tried to take out Elias, but then over by the timekeeper area, Drew McIntyre came out of nowhere, hit him with a Claymore kick, so that took out Roman for the remaining couple of moments here. Elias and Drew, they laid out Undertaker, put him on the announce table. Shane got back in the ring and hit a diving elbow drop from the top turnbuckle to the outside onto the Undertaker through the table. So whatever you say about Shane, still, he can still hit that move pretty well. They get Undertaker back in the ring. They get a trash can and they prop it up against Undertaker's face in the corner. Shane goes for the coast to coast and hits it, crashes the can right into Undertaker's face. Meanwhile, Elias is on the outside and Roman from out of nowhere comes in and hits him with the Superman punch. So that takes out Elias. Meanwhile, back in the ring, Shane, he dragged the Undertaker to the middle of the ring and he did the big sit-up. Got him up, hit him with a chokeslam. I believe he hit Elias with a chokeslam, and there was this really cool shot. So he's facing the hard camera. He does the throat slit spot, and then from behind, we see Drew McIntyre slowly rise up from behind him. It was a really cool looking shot, and it looked like he was setting up for the Claymore kick as soon as the Undertaker turned around. And once Undertaker started turning around, Drew McIntyre dove in for it, but then out of nowhere, Roman hit him with a spear. Undertaker picked up Shane, hit him with a tombstone pile driver, and that was it. Undertaker and Roman Reigns pick up the big win. Undertaker gave Roman his respect, kind of patted him on the chest after the match. They played Roman's music for a while, and then he left, and then he left the ring to the Undertaker, who did his poses and all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, a pretty good match, and a very good outing for the Undertaker. He looked just exceptional in this match, and yeah, hopefully that washes away the stench of the Goldberg stuff from Saudi Arabia. But yeah, now there's rumors, and I think it's pretty obvious in my opinion that a good direction to go in would be an Undertaker Drew McIntyre match at SummerSlam, with Drew getting the clean win over the Undertaker. Drew has lost a lot of steam lately, so getting him in a big pay-per-view match at SummerSlam with The Undertaker and cleanly beating him would be the best option, in my opinion. So hopefully that's the direction they go in for Drew. Up next, they cut to a commercial hyping up a Raw reunion. So there's going to be a big special Raw coming. I believe they said 1 week from tomorrow. So as of this recording, Monday Night Raw is tomorrow night. So next week we will get Raw reunion, and they showed a bunch of legends in the commercial: Razor Ramon, Ric Flair, Diesel or Kevin Nash. I think they showed Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin. So gonna get a lot of old faces coming back, so that should be interesting. Up next, the Raw Tag Team Championship match of the Revival. Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson defending against Jimmy and Jay, the Usos. Pretty good tag team match, very solid. These two teams have had a bunch of matches recently, so if you've seen one, you basically seen them all, and this one really was nothing overly exceptional. And coming after that opening tag team match with The Undertaker and all them, the crowd was a little bit down for this one, but they still showed them their respects. There was a long period of time where it was a 2-on-1 of Jey Uso, but eventually he got the hot tag on Jimmy, and from there, just standard stuff. At one point, Dawson hit a superplex on Jay, and meanwhile, on the other corner, Dash Wilder came down with a splash, and when he went for the cover, Jimmy Uso came down from another corner and hit his own splash to break up that pin cover. So I thought that was probably the best part of the match. But in the end, there was a blind tag that occurred, and Revival ended up hitting the Shatter Machine, I believe, on Jay. It was, obviously I can't really remember, but they hit the Shatter Machine and got the win. So Revival are still the tag team champions. Up next, we finally found out who answered or who knocked on Aleister Black's door. Of course, we found that out on SmackDown the previous week, that being Cesaro, and they gave us the match here. Cesaro versus Aleister Black. Obviously, this is not Aleister's first main roster match, but since they split up the team with him and Ricochet, and they've been doing this whole thing of him sitting in a dark room backstage, begging for someone to fight him, this is basically an entirely new character for him, and is a re-debut for him, so had to come out with a very good opponent, and what better opponent for him to start off with than Cesaro. And a lot of people had a lot of high hopes for this match, and they pretty much met those hopes and expectations. They had a really good match. Of course, it's Aleister Black, so you're going to get a whole lot of kicks in this one. He focused a lot on Cesaro's left knee, so he was constantly kicking the left knee, and as the match progressed, slowly Cesaro's left knee became less and less effective to the point where it became a crutch for him, so he was really feeling the effects for it. So I thought that was a pretty good psychology of him slowly breaking down Cesaro's knee that way. There was a lot of really cool spots in this match, particularly from Cesaro. At one point, Aleister, he was going for the diving knee off the top rope, and when he went for it, Cesaro caught him in midair, held him up, knees up in position, and then popped him up in the air, and when he came crashing down, caught him with an uppercut on the way down, so I thought that was really impressive. At one point, Cesaro, he early on had hit a springboard uppercut, so he went for it again, but he went for the one too many times, and when he came back around, he got caught in midair with a high knee from Aleister Black. But the finish came where Cesaro was going for the neutralizer, and when he had Aleister Black down in position, Aleister started to chop at the injured left knee of Cesaro, started hitting him with a bunch of rapid fire kicks, and then wound back and unloaded on him with the Black Mass and got the win. So the right finish, some might say the predictable finish, but that does not necessarily mean it was a bad finish, because had Cesaro beaten Aleister Black in Aleister Black's first match, that would have been dumb. So good to see Aleister Black get the win, and he has Megastar written all over him. I don't know if it's one of his many tattoos, but you look at the guy and you see someone who has the potential to be a big star one day. So if they play their cards right, and when Eric Bischoff takes over SmackDown, hopefully they have him penciled in as a star to build around. So we'll see. Up next was the 2-on-1 handicap match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Bayley defending against Alexa Bliss and her best friend Nikki Cross. A match where were Alexa and Nikki to win, they would become SmackDown Women's Champions, and thankfully we did not get that. This match, up to this point, was probably the weakest match, and probably even still with the show being over. Well, Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler literally lasted a few seconds, so it could be that one. But this was probably one of the weaker matches on the show. I'm really digging the stuff with Alexa and Nikki and the slow build of that story. And I'm a big Bayley fan. You know, I'm not overly thrilled with what they've done with her in recent years. But recently they've gotten to a point where, you know, they put the championship back on her and they treat her with a modicum of respect. But this feud has kind of been a little played out, so I was ready for it to just kind of be over. And it pretty much ended with this match. The finish saw Alexa up top. She came down for Twisted Bliss, but Bayley, she either moved or got her knees up. It was kind of a combination of both. And Alexa kind of recoiled back into her corner, Nikki tagged herself in, but she got hit with a big boot when she came off the top rope with a dive, and then she got dragged over to the other side of the ring. Bayley went up top, hit a weak-looking elbow drop, but it's a more credible-looking finish than the Bayley to belly. But nonetheless, she got the win, and Bayley retains her championship. And like I said, pretty weak match, and hopefully this is the end of this storyline. Up next, the last man standing match between Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman. This is coming off of the big angle they did on Raw a few weeks ago, where Braun crashed into Lashley, and they went through the stage part. You know, they had Corey Graves on commentary say holy shit, and they treated it like a real legit heavy angle, and both men were injured. Braun, of course, the worst of it, had a ruptured spleen and a dislocated pelvis, or whatever the fuck fake injuries they were putting on him. So of course he's a miracle healer, and he managed to make it back in time for this match. And I thought overall they had a really good match. It was a lot of fun. Just two big bulls beating the shit out of each other. That's what I said on Twitter, and that's pretty much what this match was. They fought everywhere, which I always love in a last man standing match. It's last man standing where it can end anywhere. Like, take advantage of that, and that's exactly what they did here. They fought into the crowd. They fought up the stairs into the stands. Lashley, he had Braun down because he was targeting his ribs and midsection, so he got him down all the way up into the concession stands area and all that kind of stuff. So they were fighting all over the place. The big turning point came, Braun was fighting back, sporadically, but the big turning point came where they were back by ringside, and Lashley literally leaped over the barricade. So Braun was out in the open area in the crowd, and Lashley leaped over, going right after Braun, but Braun caught him and just flung him over by where the international announce team's at, the one from Japan and all the other countries over there. Braun just launched him over, colliding into all those guys. So I thought that was a pretty brutal spot. And then they started to fight some more into the crowd, and they found themselves over near a section where they were right above this like very large structure, probably made of plywood or whatever. And Braun had Lashley down, and he got him up on his shoulders, and while on top of this platform in the stands, Braun sends Lashley crashing down with a power slam all the way through this structure. Both men crashed through. You couldn't really see where they were. It looked like they just disappeared. There was no real sound made, so that kind of gives you an idea of what they landed on. And so the referee just started to blindly count. He couldn't see anything, so he just blindly started counting. And eventually, Braun literally just busted through the structure and was standing upright. Couldn't see Lashley. Didn't know where the hell he ended up or where he was. But the referee kept counting and eventually reached 10, and Braun Strowman got the big win. So Braun Strowman is the victor. He is the literal last man standing. Like I said, overall, I thought it was a really fun match. A lot of really cool, unique spots in there, and that sight of Braun, power slamming Lashley off the platform, and then the sight of him just busting through like that at the end, I thought that was really cool. So, really good stuff. And I assume this is kind of the end of the storyline here. I don't really see where else they can go from here. Braun got the big decisive victory, so that wraps that up. Up next, a triple threat match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. The champions, Daniel Bryan and Rowan, defending against Heavy Machinery, Otis and Tucker, and of course representatives of the New Day, Xavier Woods and Big E. I thought this match was pretty fun too. A little wild and chaotic, like a lot of the matches on the show, but everyone got a chance to shine, especially Otis, who I'm a big fan of, and he was a lot of fun to watch at several points in this match. At one point, he held Big E upright, in a suplex position. He held him up in the air for a very long time, and Tucker was on the top rope, and he came crashing down. So Otis hit him with a suplex. At the same time, Tucker hit him with a crossbody. So, the move was very basic, but the fact that he held Big E, someone of his size, up in midair for that long was really cool. At one point, everyone was doing a bunch of dives, and Otis, he was all by himself in the ring, and it looked like he was going for a dive, but then when he bounced off the ropes and was running towards, he just kind of politely and safely got out through the ropes, was on the apron, and then just did a small little jump on the guys who were out there. So I thought that was pretty funny. Big E, he hit a superplex on Rowan, But Bryan from the other side came crashing down with a diving headbutt, a move I just have no interest in seeing Daniel Bryan ever do, ever again. Um, he eventually locked Big E in the labella lock. It looked like he was going to tap out. Every time Big E was motioning towards the rope, he kept putting a body part towards it, like an arm or a leg, and Bryan just kept contorting it backwards and stretching on it. Eventually, Big E managed to escape. Bryan started to do the kicks, and Big E just started to absorb them. Bryan started slapping him, and then Big E was just kind of egging him on to keep doing it. And when Bryan reached back to go for another one, Big E caught his arm, pulled him in for a sick lariat, and then Bryan, he went for his like traditional flip, but when he went backwards, he got caught by Big E in position for Woods to come down on the other side to hit the midnight hour. So got the pin and got the win. So the New Day, 6-time tag team champions, and that gave the New Day all of the well, not all of the championships, but that meant that all of the New Day were champions. Of course, with Kofi Kingston being the WWE champion, now Woods and Big E were the tag team champions. So the question was, would that last by the end of the night? Would Samoa Joe be able to capture the championship from Kofi Kingston in their match? I can't even say that with a straight face. Would that happen, or would Brock Lesnar potentially cash in on Kofi Kingston? So that was kind of the thought going into that one, and that led to a Paul Heyman promo where he kind of teased that Brock Lesnar would cash in by the end of the night, and he asked the question. He asked the audience, like, "Am I lying, or am I Paul Heyman?" And of course, we found out that answer at the end of the night, but we'll get to that in a moment. First up, we have to talk about the next match, which was Ricochet defending his United States Championship against AJ Styles with the Club in his corner, Anderson and Gallows. And we've seen these two have a couple of matches on TV in recent weeks, both pretty decent matches. Of course, plagued by the dumb no wrestling during commercials shit they got going on TV now, so they were kind of unnecessarily interrupted at certain points, but overall both matches that they had on TV were really good, and this one was no exception. A very good match. Of course, Anderson and Gallows were on the outside, so they provided interference at several points in this match. At one point, Ricochet hit a springboard shooting star press on AJ, which, you know, is just a normal thing for Ricochet to do, but that's really fucking impressive. So you can't discount that. So he hit the move, and he went for the cover on AJ, but AJ's foot was underneath the rope. Of course, the referee didn't see it, but Carl Anderson, who was still on the outside, he pointed it out, you know, just constantly pointing like, hey, his foot was under the rope and all that kind of stuff. And so this led to Anderson kind of getting on the apron, distracting the referee. Ricochet, meanwhile, went up top. He was going for what appeared to be the 630, but Gallows got up on the apron and he crotched Ricochet. So Ricochet's just leaning and kind of hanging from there. AJ gets back up and hits him with a Styles Clash from the middle rope, the same move that he's hit on Ricochet twice now. So 3 times the charm. He hits him with the move and gets the win. So AJ Styles becomes a 3-time United States champion, and Ricochet loses his championship in only his second defense, but his first pay-per-view appearance as U.S. champion, he loses his title. I saw a few people who were really upset about this, but it prolongs the feud. You know, now Ricochet can chase after it again, and you can make him an even more of an underdog. You know, before it was him having to contest against all of the Club. Now he not only has to face off against all 3 of them, but he has to also challenge for the championship. So I think this easily sets up a rematch at SummerSlam, perhaps maybe even a triple threat if you want to add in Rey Mysterio, who, despite getting squashed by Bobby Lashley on Raw the previous week, he never lost the U.S. title. He had to vacate it, so he could swoop right back in and get another title shot, and we could end up getting a triple threat. And either option, whether it's just AJ versus Ricochet one-on-one or a triple threat with Rey Mysterio, either of those options sound like heaven to me for SummerSlam. So I think that's a good way to go. But yeah, I had no problem with AJ winning the belt in this match, and I'm looking forward to seeing more heel AJ with the club. And now that he has the championship, I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out. Up next, another late addition to the show, Kevin Owens versus Dolph Ziggler. Of course, Kevin Owens recently turned babyface and had his own pipe bomb promo. I put the air quotes by it because I'm so sick of that word. But he had his own little work shoot on Shane McMahon the previous week, saying how, you're not the best in the world and you're taking up TV time from superstars who need it and all that kind of stuff. So he was supposed to have a match with Dolph Ziggler on SmackDown the previous week, but of course Kevin Owens ended up getting kicked out of the building, so he couldn't have the match. So they added the match here, and I'll tell you the whole match. The bell rang. Dolph Ziggler went over to Kevin Owens, started jaw-jacking, slapped Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens hit him with a stunner and got the 1-2-3. Bell rang, match over. So, just so we're clear, Dolph Ziggler has sub-zero credibility. Lost, 2-3 straight matches to Kofi Kingston, lost to Roman on SmackDown the week before, and lost here in a matter of seconds. So, no credibility left to find within Dolph Ziggler there. But after the match, Kevin Owens got the microphone, and he said, he thought he might get fired, coming to this show, but since Shane McMahon was taken out by a tombstone piledriver at the beginning of the show, he was not really afraid of that. And he said that he speaks for the crowd, he speaks for the people in the back, and he speaks for everyone when he tells Shane to kiss his ass and go straight to hell. So clearly they are building up to a Kevin Owens Shane McMahon match at SummerSlam, or maybe a tag team match where they're on opposing sides. Either way, hopefully this means the end of the Shane McMahon character on TV, and we phase him out and finally move on from that. Not just, Shane can cut back on TV time. No, get Shane the hell off of television. And if it takes Kevin Owens to do it, which seems so absurd, seeing as how Miz, the person who started this stuff with Shane in the first place, has just been a complete jobber to Shane McMahon for months now. It would make sense for him to get some sort of revenge on him too. Hell, Roman has an unavenged pinfall loss against Shane from the Saudi show, but I want that feud long dead and buried. I don't know what Roman's going to do at SummerSlam, but hopefully it has nothing to do with Drew McIntyre or Shane or Elias or any of them guys. So, if it's going to be Kevin Owens going up against Shane or some kind of amalgamation of that, that's fine, so long as it means the end of weekly Shane McMahon. Just gotta move on. Up next, the WWE Championship match, Kofi Kingston versus Samoa Joe. A pretty decent match, nothing really impressive about it. Joe was pretty aggressive. He targeted Kofi's fingers, and that was a play off of the segment they had a couple weeks back where Joe told Kofi to shake his hand, and Kofi ended up flipping him the bird. So he was kind of playing off of that. He ended up stomping on Kofi's fingers and even took him to the outside and placed his fingers in between the steel steps and stomped on that. So Kofi had a bit of a handicap there. But that did not stop Kofi from winning, because he did. Joe bounced off the ropes and was it Kofi who bounced off the ropes? It was one or the other. But meanwhile, it doesn't matter. Joe Irish whipped out of the ropes, and when he came back around, Kofi met him with a Trouble in Paradise kick and got the win. So Kofi retains the WWE Championship, and officially all three members of the New Day have championships. In this match, the fans were chanting, "We want Lesnar, no we don't." So that told you what they overall thought about it. But yeah, Kofi wins. He's still the champion, and that marks the 8th loss for Samoa Joe in World/Universal Championship matches on pay-per-view. I know he lost a bunch of matches to AJ Styles last year. He lost to Brock Lesnar a couple of times the previous year. So in the span of 2 years, 8 times he has appeared on pay-per-view to challenge for a world championship and has failed. And that does not also factor in the 2 U.S. championship matches that he lost. One to Rey Mysterio, which got overturned, or Rey vacated the title and gave Joe the belt back. So he lost to Rey at Money in the Bank. Then he lost to Ricochet last month. He's also lost a couple of other big pay-per-view matches in the past couple of years. So, Samoa Joe, he's really talented. He's still, to this day, one of the best, if not the best talker in the entire company. Looks like a complete badass. Gives off that vibe and appearance. But when he gets to these big-time pay-per-view matches, especially competing for a world championship, he just can't get the job done. Will it ever happen? Who knows? But I think it's safe to say he has reached Bray Wyatt territory in that he's all talk, but when he gets in the ring and the bell rings, by the end of the night, he's looking up at the lights and he's eating a pinfall. So hopefully those days are long gone for Bray Wyatt when he comes back with his new character, whenever that is. But as for Joe, he's still in the thick of it. And that brings us to the main event, the Extreme Rules Mixed Tag Team Winner Take All Championship match. A match where the Raw Women's Championship and the Universal Championship were both on the line. Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans challenging Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, who, by the way, are a couple and have been pretty insufferable to watch on television these past few weeks. But I didn't care going into this match. I didn't care about none of that. I just wanted this feud to end. I wanted the storyline to end. I wanted the days of Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans challenging these two people for these championships to finally end. Both Baron and Lacey lost several times to them prior to this match, and I was just ready for this storyline to finally be over, and it looks like it is. As for the match itself, it was fine. It was okay. There was a lot of weapons used. Becky and Seth both had kendo sticks that they used on Baron Corbin. Then a little bit later, Lacey and Corbin both had chairs, or maybe they both had kendo sticks, whatever, that they were using on Seth. At one point, Lacey went for a chair, and Becky was on the other side getting a chair, and she was coming around to use the chair on Lacey. And when she kind of walked over to her, Lacey, somehow the chair flew out of her hand and ricocheted onto Becky's face, and then she just wailed on her with the chair. But still, I guess that was amusing somewhat. Becky and Seth ended up setting up 2 separate tables outside, and it looked like they were about to be used against them. It looked like Corbin and Lacey were going to suplex Seth through one of them. Then Becky went over and helped Rollins suplex both of them on the rampway, and then they were both laid out on tables, that being Corbin and Lacey, and Becky came off of the apron with a diving leg drop on Lacey through one table. Meanwhile, Corbin's laid out on another table on the other side, and Rollins is up top. He hits a picture-perfect, beautiful frog splash on Corbin. Then a little bit later, back in the ring, the big spot, or the big closing point of the match, was Baron Corbin ended up hitting the End of Days on Becky Lynch. So that laid her out, and he did so right in front of Seth, who was kind of not laid out, but kind of sitting in the corner on the other side, and he just went off. He unleashed on Corbin with a bunch of kendo stick shots and chair shots and all that kind of stuff. We saw Lacey Evans on the outside. She kind of backed away and slowly walked away, basically walking away from a championship opportunity here. But she could see there was no win for Corbin here. Seth ended up laying him out with 3 stomps, and that was it. And as soon as the bell rang, it didn't take long for Rollins' music to cut out and Brock Lesnar's music to hit. Out came Brock, got to the ring, immediately started hitting German suplexes on Seth Rollins, and then Paul Heyman went over to the announcer with the briefcase, said Brock Lesnar is cashing in. The bell rings, Brock gets Rollins up, hits him with the F5, and regains the Universal Championship for the 3rd time. Seth Rollins is no longer the Beast Slayer, because the beast that he slayed has risen again. and took back his championship. So the show ends with Brock Lesnar once again the Universal Champion. Like I said, I like the show overall. A lot of really good matches on the show. A lot of fun stuff. But yeah, I cannot say I am thrilled about the idea of Brock Lesnar once again being the Universal Champion. I have no problem with Brock Lesnar being in the company and them using him, but him being a world champion or Universal Champion, whatever the hell you want to call it, I was over it during the first reign. How you think I feel now during the third? You know, it's just overplayed. It's overdone. I see no benefit to it. I really seriously don't. Hopefully this is only short term, whether it's to Rollins or someone else. Hopefully he drops the championship right back at SummerSlam. The only positive I can say is, hey, at least the men's Money in the Bank winner successfully cashed in, something that has not happened in the last 2 years. So there's that. But yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but that does not take away from my overall enjoyment of the show, which I thought top to bottom was really good. And the next pay-per-view is SummerSlam. I have no idea of what to expect on that show. Like I said before, I assume Owens and Shane will be something there. Maybe McIntyre and Undertaker. I'm sure we'll get another match with Ricochet and AJ Styles in some form or fashion. And I don't know who Lesnar faces, but hopefully whoever it is, he loses. And this is only a short-term thing heading into SummerSlam, and it ends there. Because otherwise, I can't handle that shit again. But that's about it for me. Like, overall, good show, and I'll talk to y'all later.